Alright, BookTube. We're going to do another mail haul. And we're going to get it done in less than 40 minutes. Okay? We have some packages here. We're going to go through them amply. And we're going to finish on time. In a timely fashion. Okay? Because these mail hauls are getting out of control. So we're going to start with this first one. It's tiny. It's very thin. It could be a slim volume of poetry. Oh no, actually it's got postage all over it. So it's probably from a person. It's probably from one of you. Oh, what could this be? Huh? You want to destroy a priority mail envelope? Oh. How wonderful. Oh my. I mentioned the other day, I mentioned on Comic Book Wednesdays that I wanted to buy the Savage Sword of Conan #1, the new launch of the Savage Sword of Conan from Marvel Comics. But then when I went to my local comic shop, it was closed. It was an open cavern of a space. They were relocating and I hadn't bothered to tell anybody. So I couldn't do it. And I asked Mark at Richardson Reads, because he's mentioned in some of his videos that he goes to a local comic shop of his own. In fact, it's a Newbury Comics, just like mine, up in Vermont. And would he, if he goes and he sees one, would he get me a copy of Savage Sword of Conan #1, just so I don't miss it? I'm sure that back issues would be at my local comic shop once they reopen, but I'm impatient, like all 20-somethings. And he did. He got me, and so this is it. Look at that glorious Alex Ross cover, where the dead zombie-like creatures still have entrails. This is Savage Sword of Conan #1, which has a glorious Alex Ross cover, but it also has something I did not realize. It has Ron Garney artwork on the inside. The writer is Jerry Duggan, but the artist is Ron Garney, who is incredible. He's just amazingly good. There's a shipwrecked Conan eating raw shark meat in order to survive. And Ron Garney is one of those artists who can be very different depending on his inker, and who also is constantly tinkering with how he does things, how he lays out a page, how he communicates action, how he uses dark, and just blocks of darkness, of ink, shadows and shadow play, that sort of thing. Not an artist who just turns in the same stuff over and over again. So he's wonderful. He's one of my favorites. And I hadn't somehow it had escaped me that he would be drawing at least the beginning of Savage Sword of Conan. So thank you, Mark. Thank you, Richardson Reads. You should all subscribe to his channel if you don't already. But this is the first issue of Savage Sword of Conan. So now I get to read what I missed on Comic Book Wednesday. All right, so that is a fantastic start. So let's move on here. Are you ready, Bean? You seem ready to me. You ready? Huh? Oh. Do you want something else? Another thing? Oh, good. Okay, I requested this. Our day has been sort of spotty because it's been on and off rain here, and if there's even the slightest hint of rain, then Frida is not interested in going outside to get to the back step, which I don't need anymore. In fact, I don't need to indulge in that habit at all anymore. The back entrance is just one shallow step, and for 15 years it was an absolute reflex for me because my girls couldn't. Lucy, my basset hound, could not handle stairs. She took her forever. She would lose interest, or she would forget how they worked. And my pointer Malin was never all that comfortable with stairs anyway. And then the last 4 or 5 years of her life, her hind legs became so weak that she couldn't handle them anyway. So it was a blessing to have that one step. But Frida absolutely doesn't need it. We could come and go by the front door like a normal person. But when we go to that back step and I open the door and she looks outside, if she detects rain of any kind, then the walk is off. So it's been spotty all day. I've been having to watch to see if maybe now's a chance we can dash out. But anyway, this is a novel. Yes, a novel. Yes, this is The Electric Hotel by Dominic Smith. So what have we got here? Whole front page of blurbs. And a whole back page of blurbs. Okay, so... okay, is there anything on the back? Okay, the back of the book has a bit that isn't a blurb. tracing the intertwined fates of a French silent film pioneer, his muse, and the masterpiece film that upended their lives, The Electric Hotel is a spellbinding story of art and love, a portrait of a man entranced by the magic of movie-making, and a whirlwind trip through the early cinema history. This is fiction in the hands of a master. It transports, it mesmerizes. Only if I say it does, Seymour. Okay. All you have to do is sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Well, you'd like it if that's all that a critic did, wouldn't you? I don't know that I'll be able to oblige, but I might like it. Who is Dominic Smith when he's at home? Grew up in Sydney, Australia, and now lives in Seattle, Washington. And he's the author of the novels The Last Painting of Sarah DeVos, Bright and Distant Shores, The Beautiful Miscellaneous, and The Mercury Visions of Louis Daguerre. I have not read any of those. Sounds like they're all historical novels, and it sounds like this is a historical novel, too. Another historical novel to go with the vast glut of them that we've been seeing in 2019. Well, okay. I'm not getting any starting dates, but it does look like this is. It looks like this is at least the beginning of the 20th century. Okay, so fantastic. So this comes out in June. This is another June book. Another historical novel. All right. Are you ready, Bean? Do you want a little more? Do you want some cardboard? This thing's very thin. This could be a slim volume of poetry. I don't think I'm getting 2 Conan issues in one mail hole. Oh, she doesn't want to sit up. Oh no. Okay, great. A little bit on the odd side. Great. This is not a slim volume of poetry. It is a slim volume, and it's wonderful. This is wonderful. I've praised this before. This is Georges Simenon. This is Maigret and the Lazy Burglar, with a lovely paperback cover and these new editions. Penguin is doing all of the Maigret novels. In fact, they're doing all of Simenon in new translations, new English language translations by a small team of translators. And this one is, let's see here. This one was translated by Howard Curtis. And what have we got? When his superiors dismissed the death of a burglar as part of a Paris gang's wars, Inspector Maigret defies their orders and tries to discover what really happened to the quiet, likable crook he had known for years. So Maigret and the Lazy Burglar. I'm a little bit odd. It's a little bit odd because I don't usually get these like this. They usually don't come to me in single envelopes like this. But this is encouraging in another way too. You see, because this is they just have the whole set of Simenon, and I don't know why, but I thought that set was ending. I thought that set was ending in 2018. And now I'm realizing it's mid-February in 2019, and I just got a new Maigret novel. So, where would this put us? Where does this put us? Good Lord, look at all these things. Where is Maigret and the Lazy Burglar? Is it at the beginning of a list? Are they going to just keep going forever? I don't even see it on this list. I'm sure that it is, and I'm just missing it. But this is great, because this means that I was... Yeah, okay, there it is. Oh, God. It's a dozen more. Okay, fantastic. This means that I was wrong. This means that the Maigrets are going to keep coming. That's fantastic, because I've been loving these new translations. And loving getting back into these novels. They're like M&Ms, those of you who are in America and know American candy. They're just... You pop them right down. They're done in half an hour, and they're so good. They're just so good. Wonderful. Okay, that was unexpected. All right, so let's move on to this next one. Frida is contentedly eating cardboard. She chews it to a fine paste, and then she dismisses it. She doesn't actually eat it. Oh, fantastic. Oh, wow, look at this. It's got a ton of material with it, too. Fantastic. This is a Penguin Classic. It comes out in March, and it's an unusual Penguin Classic. It's one of their unconventional designs, where they give it a dust jacket. A lot of people, most people who are under the age of 70 won't remember that the Penguin Classics, a lot of them originally came in mass markets with mass market dust jackets. And every once in a while, Penguin will bring out a new book in that rather classy style. There are a couple behind me there. That right at the edge of my finger right there, that orange one, The Bureau of Lost Time. is another one of these that has a normal black spine penguin classic with a dust jacket that is not that. And this is an original anthology. This is the women's suffrage movement. And you see what I mean? This has it doesn't look like a penguin classic at all, but it actually is one. Underneath the dust jacket, which highlights one of the eyes, is a normal black spine penguin classic like all of those. It's just they decided to give it the glitzy treatment here, and that's wonderful. And I don't think we've seen this on this channel before. Okay, that's a Q&A. There's a huge amount of editorial material here. All right, so let me hold up this pretty thing for you. The story of women's suffrage has been told in the same fashion for 100 years. It is familiar, repetitive, and overwhelmingly white. But never before have the most influential writings, speeches, and reportage been collected in one place. Okay, depends on what you mean by most influential. There have been other anthologies of fundamental women's suffrage movement writings. It must be what you mean by most influential. With an emphasis on the unsung heroes that have shaped and established the movement. Now, for the first time, readers can turn to the women's suffrage movement, a comprehensive and intersectional anthology edited by Sally Roche Wagner, a preeminent scholar of the diverse backbone of the movement. Okay. In advance of the 2020 centennial of the 19th Amendment, and in a time when conversations about feminism, intersectionality, social justice, and voting rights are more pertinent than ever, this volume is an essential and enlightening tome. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, these women were beaten in the streets. They were arrested. They were hooted at like cattle. They had cattle manure thrown at them. Some of their lives were ruined. Are you saying now that they were still using white privilege? that we're only now able to celebrate their achievements because we're able to... It's not good enough. The critics of the social justice warrior movement are universal. I mean, a lot of them are crackpots, and I don't agree with a lot of what they say. But they are universal in one of their declarations, which is that nothing is ever good enough for social justice warriors. They don't actually care about the achievements of the past in any way. No one is good enough. Everyone was compromised in some way or another until they came along. So Emma Pankhurst isn't good enough because she was white? the story's not full of courage and intellectual daring until now, till this moment. I should get over it. AOC is going to be president, so I should just get over it. Let's see here. This features writing from household names like Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and Alice Paul, alongside women of color who were overshadowed by their white counterparts. With an eye towards incorporating discussion of race and class into the history of the fight for women's right to vote, the editor offers a nuanced and diverse picture of the movement. She pays tribute to the influence of native peoples and unflinchingly acknowledges the blatant racism within the organizations like the National American Women's Suffrage Association that prioritized the white vote and forced women of color like Ida B. Wells and Sarah Mapps Douglas to start their own organizations. Okay. All right. So this is okay. This is going to be tough. I haven't even dipped a toe into this. It's obviously aimed for schools. To be a text in classes, but this pub sheet, I don't know how much of it the editor was involved with. I don't know how much of it reflects the book, but the pub sheet is certainly making a case, is certainly saying that the women's rights movement has been racist up until now, and that we should hate it, except in its current incarnation. It's just possible that some of the trailblazers of the movement thought, let's secure as much as we can get now, and if we're fighting for white women to have the vote, and also black women to have the vote, also that forced women of color like Ida B. Wells and Sarah Mapps Douglas to start their own organizations, I am not sure. I don't know Sarah Maps Douglas, but I'm not sure that Ida B. Wells would have agreed with that characterization. And I shouldn't be. This is the thing I hate about the current buzzword campus social justice warrior movements, is that I end up arguing with the people I agree with because I don't want to be bullied. I should not be arguing with this pub sheet. This should be the last thing in the world that I'm arguing with. But what is it telling me? So far, what has it been telling me? You were wrong to idolize these women that put everything in their world on the line in order to win the right to vote. You were wrong to idolize them because they were all racist. Because they didn't do this in 2019, they were all racist. Okay. All right, well, among the topics covered in the women's suffrage movement, the influence of Native and Indigenous people, segregation and racism within the suffragist movement, the early days of the equal pay for equal work movement, the kinds of protests staged by suffragists, and what modern activists can learn from the women's suffrage movement. And this book gives voice to women left out of the history books and thoughtfully questions the choices of the movement's idols. The result is a fascinating untold history that should be essential reading for a new generation of scholars, feminists, and activists. Well, they should be an essential reading is clearly the goal here, because some having classics more than others are bought up immediately for schools. This is ripe for the picking there. And it's also a pretty design. I'm hoping, I'm hoping a little bit against hope now, but I am hoping that this thing is not pitched quite so confrontationally as the pub sheet. This comes out in the first week of March, so I could easily justify reading this through it tonight, and I probably will. I probably will. I'm hoping that the book itself is not as confrontational as that pub sheet, because that would be a shame. That would be a shame, especially in 2019 America, where state legislatures from one end of the country to the other have drawn crosshairs on progressive values of all kinds. And if this is your idea of banding together, when one state after another is trying to make it effectively a criminal procedure to have an abortion, and you're coming out with an anthology of the women's suffragist movement, a large portion of which's purpose is to vilify the founders of that movement. Well, we shall see. I will read it and see. I will report back, because I'm sure a number of you are interested. I shouldn't be arguing with this, so I will hope for the best. Oh, there you go. What have we got here? What's next? Oh, fantastic. Oh, wow. Okay, I would never have thought that this would have a paperback. It would just have never occurred to me that this would have a paperback. That's great. Oh, and the paperback's right around the corner, too. This was fantastic. This book was fantastic. And it has a paperback. Wow. This is from Yale University Press. And this is Our Beloved King, A New History of the King Philip's War by Lisa Brooks. There were 3 King Philip's Wars history that came out at roughly the same time. Last year, I think? Last year? And this was the best of the 3, and I just assumed, 2018, I just assumed for some reason this would never get a paperback. I don't know why. With rigorous original scholarship and creative narration, boy oh boy is this beautifully written. The creative narration part is absolutely true. This book recovers a complex picture of war, captivity, and native resistance during the First Indian War, later named King Philip's War, by relaying the stories of Weetamo, a female Wampanoag leader, and James Printer, a Nipmuc scholar, whose stories converge on the captivity of Mary Rowlandson. The storied captivity of Mary Rowlandson. Through both a narrow focus on Weetamoo, Printer, and the network of relations, and a far broader scope that includes vast indigenous geographies, the author leads us to a new understanding of the history of colonial New England and of American origins. Brooks' path-breaking scholarship is grounded not just in extensive archival research, but also in the land and communities of native New England, reading the actions of actors during the 17th century alongside an analysis of the landscape and interpretations informed by tribal history. Uh, ordinarily, accounts of King Philip's War, to put it mildly, do not have that aspect to it. And when I first read about this, I thought, okay, well, there's a potential here for such a balanced redressing narrative to be very heavy-handed. And this wasn't at all. It's just beautifully done. Just beautifully done. Wow, and it has a paperback. That's fantastic. Because that means, that a whole new group of readers, it has another shot at finding an audience. It'll be back in bookstores at a lower price tag. So that is great. What is the lower price tag? I'm sure we want to know. What is the lower price tag? Are we told what it is? The first one I think was $30, the hardcover. What is? Oh, come now, Yale. Come on. This has the pub cover. The hardcover was $35, and the pub sheet just has that information. Okay. Oh wait, no. Oh, is this just the pub sheet from the hardcover? $35 hardcover, 450 pages. Okay. I don't think there's no chance at all that this paperback is $35. There's no way. Even in 2019, there's no way. Okay, the pub sheet is listing $35 as the price, but it's also listing that was the price of the hardcover, and I think I remember that being true. I'll find out. I'll go online and find out. I'm going to want to mention that if I bring this up. But one way or another, the hardcover is long gone, and now we have another shot at it, and that's fantastic because this is there are probably 2 or 3 really good, solid, indispensable works on King Philip's War, and this is one of them. So wonderful. All right, and then we have one last package here, and then we'll be done. Whatever, and we'll be done at looks like. We'll be done at, oh, you vicious little thing! Looks like we'll be done at half the length of the last mail haul, which is good. We want to get these things back under control, so bless the people at New York Review of Books. In the last mail haul, the one that got out of control, I got Stalingrad by Vasily Grossman, which is a sort of one half of his story of one family, the Shepistnikov family, one half of their sprawling story during World War II, the era of World War II, slightly before, slightly after. And I remember when I got that book, I squealed on camera and said that it was one half of that story, previously untranslated in its complete, unexpurgated edition into English, and that the other half was a gigantic novel called Life and Fate. And here, the people at New York Review of Books sent me their edition of Life and Fate, which is Vasily Grossman's. It's the other half of that story, and it is well known. And I consider it to be a great novel. it was Grossman wrote it, but it never saw publication in his lifetime, and it was confiscated. Not just the book, but the pages, and not just the pages and the crates and the packing material and everything, but also the typewriter ribbon. The typewriter ribbon that had the letters. Those of you who are too young to know, manual typewriters had a ribbon that went through it, and you typed on that ribbon, that made the ink impressions onto paper. So theoretically, it would be possible to reconstitute the book from the ribbons. and the Soviet authorities confiscated everything. So it was only published after the author was dead. And so he never got to, he was prolific throughout his lifetime, wrote compulsively. But he never got to know that this is considered a classic, and it is. I was very happy when New York Review of Books brought out this volume years ago. I think I got a copy. I think I bought a copy of it at the Strand when this first came out. This translation is by Robert Chandler, and I think when did this come out? Okay. The indicia here is not telling me when the New York Review of Books edition came out. It might have been 2006. But one way or another, I think I was at the Strand in New York City, and I got a copy of this, but I immediately, as soon as I met the next person I met that had not read Life and Fate and wanted to, I immediately boxed it up and sent it off to them. So I'm glad to have this, because it goes with this. So there you go. That is fantastic. Okay, great. So that is not new, but I have an older paperback edition of this that I have beat to heck and gone. It's over on the nightstand, and it's being held together by 2 rubber bands. The spine is cracked, the pages are coming out in tufts, so I really did need an edition of this to refamiliarize myself before I dive into this. So that's fantastic. Wonderful. Okay, so that is our mail haul. A couple of rocky spots, but all in all, wonderful. So the bottom of the foundation of the whole thing, Life and Fate by Vasily Grossman in a new paperback. That is great. That is fantastic. It will certainly do until Penguin Classics does Life and Fate. That would be wonderful. Then Our Beloved King by Lisa Brooks. This is about King Philip's War, and it's tremendously good. A different kind of historical reading experience, which is always nice, especially if it's done confidently, and here it's pulled off perfectly. Then The Women's Suffrage Movement, a new original anthology from Penguin Classics. You've got this dust jacket design. The back has original artwork as well. And this is going to include a lot of the standard writings of Susan B. Anthony and all the rest, their addresses, their letters, their famous proclamations that have been in anthologies like this before. But it sounds like this one is also going to include lots of proclamations from other people, from maybe people who, according to that pub sheet, who were overshadowed by the white leaders of the movement. So regardless of what I might think about the political overtones of making such a book, I wholeheartedly applaud bringing some of those writings into the spotlight, into the light of day. That I wholeheartedly applaud that. I actually love no matter what I might argue with I suspect I will be arguing with the introduction to this volume on every page, in every paragraph. I suspect that will be true. I suspect that the whole time I'm reading the introduction, I'll be saying, pick your battles. Pick your battles. The enemy of your enemy is your friend. Pick your battles. I might not be. We'll see. I'll let you know. But whether I'm arguing with the introduction or not, I will be overjoyed to read an anthology of women's suffrage writing. Isn't she adorable? Oh my God. Hi, Bean. How you doing? What you doing over there? Yeah. Anyway, as I was saying, I will be overjoyed to read an anthology of women's suffrage writing in which I encounter things I haven't read before. That would be wonderful, because I have a bunch of anthologies that I've read and really liked. Just astonishing to me that women could be elected to Congress, that they could write the greatest books in the world, that they were indispensable to their households, that every man in Congress or anywhere in any kind of legislature owed everything to the women in his life, and yet they couldn't vote. And also, of course, hand in hand, I'm sure it won't be in this volume, hand in hand, there were all sorts of those female writers and activists who were against suffrage. So, the whole subject is just fascinating. It was the subject of a great book called The Women's Hour a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago. If I remember, I'll leave the information down below, but it's not to be missed as a history of the whole question. But this is going to make fascinating reading, even if it irritates me. Then we have The Electric Hotel by Dominic Smith, a big atmospheric historical novel of the type I've read. I've read 24 of them already this year, and there are lots more to come. And the new Simenon, a new translation of a Simenon novel, in which as a policeman, of course, as policemen do, he had, at the time, and especially in crime fiction, classic crime fiction, your lawyer or barrister or police officer or a detective will know some criminals. Some of them won't be as bad as others. Some of them will just be scofflaws on the wrong side of right. And if one of them ends up dead, you're going to feel like wrong has been done. It's a relationship that's seen in Rumpole of the Bailey with his relationship with the Timpson clan, who have been South London petty villains since long before the Norman Conquest. But they aren't evil, and they help Rumpole with the rich pickings of the legal aid system. So, if I remember correctly, because I've read all of these Simenon novels in translation before, I read the last rack of English language translations in those little mass markets with the trench-coated inspector on the cover of each one of them. And if I remember correctly, that is the relationship that we're talking about here in this novel. But I can't wait to reread it. I mean, effectively, it's a new book to me. A new translation of a book I haven't read in 30 years. So there you go. That is our second mail haul of the day. And I see that we did not shave it down by much, but at least this isn't 45 minutes. So we did it. I will sign off now, and I will be back. Thank you, Book 2.